Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen. I'm Jeff Widgren, your host, the one who starts the meeting, but certainly doesn't always lead the discussion. But gosh, it's good to be back. I haven't been here in a week or two. I've been busy with some things, but we meet here each Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern to discuss everything Zoom. This today in particular, there are a lot of release notes that are packed full of some fresh features for Zoom meetings, Zoom webinar, and events and so forth. So we're going to review those. Some of those we'll even get a chance to test and take a look at and dig deep. That's what we do here in the Zoom Test Kitchen, is dig deep on features and really put them to the test and expand our knowledge and drive it home, I say, beyond the documentation even, so that we're well prepared to manage those meetings or large events and so forth on this platform. So I welcome everybody. I see Ray Franklin out there. Hello, Ray. How are you?
Welcome back from the desert. It looks like we have some of your compatriots here, including the leader of the gang.
Yeah, I saw John just pop in, and David Brady was out there as well, seeing if there's anybody else. Not at the moment, but that was a great time. I was my wife and I had traveled out to Provo, Utah, to visit our sons at college and take part in a special event with one of them, and we went out there two Wednesdays ago, and jumping in our car to head back to Kansas City on Monday, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I'd been vacillating back and forth, and I said, honey, heck, we're 5 days away and 5 hours away. You okay with heading south? And she said, yeah, that's fine. Let's do it. And she has her mom and family down there, so that made it a little bit easier. But she flew home a couple days later, and I got to stay there and meet just an incredible group of individuals who have been virtual friends for a long time, and now we've bonded, if you will, and met each other, realized how really tall or short or wide we are in person, and had just an awesome time. You know, there were definitely challenges, but we all enjoyed them together and shared that. Fact is John's not on camera quite yet, but when he pops on, I'll go ahead and throw it out there, is John. We're going to have John and any of the other team that wants to join us in the Zoom Test Kitchen to do another follow-up. If you got to participate in office hours, where on yesterday, Thursday, Wednesday, they reviewed the text with Tuomo, the overlays and so forth, and then Thursday they reviewed the setup and so forth. So if you have any other questions that maybe didn't get answered or whatnot, John and some of the gang will be here. And haven't asked John yet if next Friday works, but soon we'll have that opportunity as well. Zoom was certainly a big part of it during the planning stages, and right up through the entire production. There was always a Zoom meeting open, and because there was a remote crew as well. So it was a good time. So welcome. Ray, your camera looks great, by the way. Your background, your camera, it's come a long ways.
That's good. I enjoy the help from various people to get there.
Yeah, good stuff. Michael Andreas, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And David Brady, my tequila man.
I think that's on tonight at 8.
What's on tonight at 8?
They're streaming that thing. I was out there with Jeff and John and the whole crew. Just general PA, I guess. I don't know. It was a blast. I was part of the first test make sure stuff was working the night before launch with Kyle Hammond and the Hour of Happy, and we mixed up some margaritas on the desert, and that's premiering tonight, I think.
Ah, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, David got pulled into that unknown, unprepared.
Yeah.
And guess what? He had no argument to be able to mix some drinks and
No,
be on air. He did a great job, and Kyle as well. So, yeah, I had an outside studio all set up in the desert on the desert floor, and if everybody could have just seen our pants and shoes and vehicles, they would have seen just how just filthy it was. Not filthy, but super dusty, and as they described it, not just dust that would blow off. There's a layer that blows off, and then there's a layer that just like glues itself to everything. It's a tough clean, that's for sure. But it was good, and it gets cold in the morning. We had fires going, and it was bitter cold on production day morning because we were there at 5:30 a.m. and tell you, on a lake bed that's I don't know, at least 5 miles wide. You could drive 5 miles and still be on the lake bed. Bright lights don't do much in the dark on a flat lake bed. It's incredible, unless you're Jarrett, 1F Jeff's son, who has one of those really bright LED bars on top of his vehicle that seemed to kind of light it up. But standard headlights didn't do much in the desert. Just kind of point aimlessly and drive. But
I slept out there the 3 nights. They had one of the production trailers, and my first time in like RVing, and didn't realize that all the windows were open and that there was actual heat in the thing. So the first night was a little chilly.
Oh man,
roughing it.
No kidding. Good stuff. Robert from Poland, glad to have you here.
Hi, just listening in, catching up. Haven't been here for a while, so just listening in to what you've been up to.
Yeah. It's been fun. I was gone from home. I haven't been gone from home for 2 weeks, and feels like forever. So, but it was a pretty easy 2 weeks to be gone because it was so enjoyable. But I had a great time. Got to meet John Preto, wonderful individual, and his bird, and that's its name, Bird. And he's super cool. There are a couple of people he wasn't so cool with, but he was pretty dang cool. And I don't know who else, David, did we hang with? Doug Ferguson and Lana, his wife, Keenan, Chris Fenwick. Got to work with Chris myself because I did a lot of the behind the scenes footage.
Sky Gleason.
Sky Gleason, Jack. I don't know Jack's last name. Jack and
Eric Price is out there.
Yeah, Eric Price and Robert, his son. They took care of every single one of us, from running the kitchen and brought all the food and just nonstop work and preparing some great meals. And who else? Chris Widner and part of his family. And so, just and Bill. Bill was there with his wife and dog.
Roscoe was there.
Roscoe, Victor. It was a party. I had 25 people out there, and if you haven't been tracking it at all, there's some kind of cool pictures of the whole group and so forth. So it was a great time. And Noah Sargent, who brought all the video gear, which was a lot, and so had a great time. Anyways, let's take a look. Got Kevin Babcock is in the room, and John Preto is in the room, or Miller, and Muddy, is it Muddy Schlegel? Very good. Where are you out of? Can you say?
Yeah, I'm based in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm on location this afternoon, so I thought I'd pop in the car and hang out in the test kitchen for A little bit, especially with all the updates of this last 5.10. Good stuff.
Yeah, no, no doubt. Glad to have you. And so, yeah, I admittedly haven't spent a lot of time on testing some of the things that are in the release notes, but I think we should get started with, anybody here who has their favorite feature 2 or 3 so far. Let's start with a discussion about those, and then I'll bring up the official notes as well. So anybody have a feature that has really stood out that you've been waiting for and it's finally here?
I didn't even see the update. Catch up.
All right. So yeah, let's start with sharing. Well, I'll tell you this. Let's set this up. Ray is a co-host. David, I'm going to make you a co-host, and then after this run, we'll do the same thing with Robert Muddy and Michael Andreas. For the moment, I'm going to send Michael, Muddy, and Robert to the waiting room, and while you're there, Ray, David, and myself are going to see that there's a feature that we can boot you out of the meeting while you're in the waiting room, and we can also rename you while you're in the waiting room, and that's a new feature as well. So let me send you that way, Michael.
Jeff, just one question. When you boot us out of the waiting room, will we be able to get back in?
I have the setting in my back-end portal to allow removed individuals to rejoin. Okay. And so we don't need to remove anybody from the meeting, but you'll see the option, but that is dependent on that setting. So Michael, we're going to send you out there. Robert. Seems like Muddy as well. He's off camera, but I'm going to send him there. Okay, so guys, if you want to take a look at, there's the natural admit button, but now there's 3 dots next to everybody's name in the waiting room, and the 2 choices to either remove them or rename them as well. And so why doesn't, David, why don't you go ahead and rename Robert, if you will.
Sure.
And then
Robert, yes.
Let him come in. And Ray, why don't you rename Michael, and I'll rename Muddy slightly. Muddy Schlegel 2. So we'll do that, and we'll admit him.
Was there at one point a way you could text? Oh no, that's just a text message to the entire waiting room, right? Okay.
Yeah. When there's people in the waiting room, you can message them all. I think you can message them all initially. Once you message them all, then individuals can reply to you. And when that takes place, we'll test this again. You can also message them directly, but I'm not sure if you can do it initially or after you send one broadcast and get a message from them. So let's take a look at that as well. So Ray, I'm going to send you out this time. Can I? Not while you're co-host.
That also has to be enabled in the web portal too, the ability for them to reply back.
That's true, yep.
Rupert's out there. You bring him in?
Yeah, hang on. When he's there, it's his very first time there. I'm going to go down to my chat window and drop down the list. I can see Rupert, and he's in the waiting room, and I can send a direct message to Rupert, who just arrived for the first time, So you can direct
Right,
message individuals, global message the waiting room. And I don't think they can they can reply, but I don't think they can initiate that first conversation with the host. But they can reply once you send them a global or individual message. So we'll let Rupert in. Okay. So let's see. Michael Andreas is, excuse me. I came back to Kansas City and I've had a cough ever since. And I don't feel sick, but just a cough where the desert did me good. I didn't have it there. So anyways, Michael Andreas is now back from waiting room. Muddy Schlegel is Muddy Schlegel 2. And we changed those names. Robert Sababadi is now Robert S. And we changed those while you were in the waiting room, not while you were in the meeting. So that's good. That, and that can be applied so many ways. I know maybe Robert, who owns and runs a international language interpretation company, that if you know who you're expecting as interpreters and maybe they don't follow the protocol and come in as directed, right? Come in with this naming convention, but you can still recognize them in the waiting room. You could rename them and fix that prior to letting them into the meeting itself. Same kind of thing holds true with speakers, panelists, things like that, where you want maybe something as simple as it all looks right, but you've decided you want to put a asterisk or an underscore character or something as the first character so that they sort up towards the top in the participants list, or something creative that way. Any other thoughts of creative use on renaming in the waiting room? Yeah, David.
Yeah, we at work will often reach out to publicists of talent, and the publicist might sign in on behalf of talent, so they would show up in that waiting room with the non-talent name. So I'm curious, if you were to chat them to say, please identify yourself, you could then rename them before bringing them in, kind of thing. So that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. You can chat with somebody you have no idea who they are, right? Get some clarity, and if it feels right and so forth, then name them accordingly. So, yeah, good stuff. All right.
I've got one more use case on that, Jeff. I've noticed that even when we do tests before an event, people will come in and their kids or someone has been using the computer and they've logged in as themselves, and they come into the main event and you suddenly see this awkward name.
Yeah.
Since we've seen it in the test, we can change it before the person comes in, especially if it's a VIP of some sort.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, spouses, kids' names. Sometimes just a lot of weird characters, or whatnot. Whether they're it used to be pronouns and parentheses and things like that, where pronouns are now separately supported in their own text field, and so that doesn't mess up the name. I know when I was using Zoom OSC in a meeting, I certainly had some characters through Zoom OSC's character set that it knows how to read and interpret versus what was in the name as well. So very good.
Howdy, folks. I just had a thought on that. Hey.
Yep.
So I just caught the end of that, but I get the gist of it. I was just thinking how, I guess this goes for renaming people in general, but particularly in the waiting room before they enter the meeting. Do we know what version of their name gets displayed on any reporting that happens after the fact?
Yeah, that I don't know, actually.
Does the report show what they kind of tried to join the waiting room with, or what you rename them to before they join the meeting? I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Yeah, those convenient features definitely, make us guess and wonder and have to really go test and see how, in fact, it does report. whether they think about that the report itself. Is it doing the first name and the last name on the Zoom account, not the display name, or the display name? And as your question is it the originating display name that they arrived with, or the one that it got changed to as well? So if anybody knows, chime in. Otherwise, at the end of this meeting, I can run the report on this and report back. Great thought, great question. All right, so let me share. I'm trying to look and see. I didn't even check my security settings today when I turned things on. I shouldn't admit that, but I didn't. But they're set to where they were and usually are. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the release notes.
As you look at those, Jeff, can you zoom in on them a little for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna blow those up. I'm adjusting my floating gallery view too, so I can see you guys as I talk and share too. Okay, so the release notes, you can always find, and the the breakdown being, if I go back to release notes, it's not. This one's not the short note. Here we go. Release notes. Yeah, it's still not a really short URL, but I'll copy and paste that into the chat. Get that out to everyone. There you go. And it's a great place. and not only for, it's called release notes, but you can see here they have a section called preview notes as well. So it hasn't been released yet, but it's on the docket, if you will. So no guarantee that it is going to be released, but it's ingrained deep enough in their development process, testing process, QA, and so forth, to where they feel pretty confident that it's going to be in the next release as well.
So there is a distinction then between, because the next Zoom release by date is in the future, like March 27th. That is a future release. So I guess there's a difference between releases that are scheduled and then preview notes for things that are coming even after that.
Yeah, and preview notes, I would initially say the distinction difference would be, they both are full of features, right, that have been pretty much committed to, but the March 27th is a committed date of features versus an unknown date, but a fairly committed list of features. So if you want to know what they're actively working on getting out next, that's what preview notes are all about. And
that's a new section, right?
They've had, I think it is a new section in the sense that they've always had future dates, right, but they haven't had these undated preview notes as well. Yeah. So let's start with, today is the 25th. And so let's start on the 21st, and then we'll look at the 27th. So what happens at this point is you have, this is Zoom releases by date. You can also take a look at Zoom releases by product. So if you want to see what just Zoom Rooms or phones or the client and or the Zoom Events platform, you can go after just the product itself versus the date as well. If you go by the date, it's going to include all the sections of the different products within that had any new features that were released on that particular date. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the 21st. It says that it says last updated on the 23rd, release notes for the Zoom client, for Intune, and for the Outlook plugin. So starting with the Zoom client, and you can jump quickly to the particular platforms: Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Android, and iOS if you want to. And so let's just glance through some of these. General features: ability to hide sensitive information in push notifications. So if enabled in the web settings, sensitive information such as meeting details, chat messages will not be included in push notifications on mobile devices. Support for Apple authentication. Users will be able to sign in with their Apple ID on the Zoom desktop client and mobile apps. That's kind of cool. And dark mode support in Windows. Users can select a dark theme for their client settings. And this MSI, PLIS, GPO, MDM, that's corporate implementations or features there as far as login, visibility, and so forth. Meeting and webinar features, avatars on Windows, Mac OS, and iOS.
Who would want to use avatars? That's so silly. Who would want to have an avatar in Zoom?
I imagine it's maybe popular in education.
Possibly, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Or a particular, I mean, if you, I don't know, if it's something you can turn on and turn off in meeting, and if you can, maybe a planned interactive activity that just makes it, kind of fun and entertaining versus be at a business meeting. Yep. So Ed, the one
it's
complaining
interesting
about
though,
it, is now an avatar.
Yeah, I came in this way. Well, I changed it as soon as I came in. But what's interesting is it works with the virtual background and. Oh, well, no, you're streaming with a screen scrape, right?
I'm streaming with a screen scrape.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say because I'm looking at the stream and I'm there as well. Although, like my hands are if I have my hands up, it doesn't do anything to the camera. It causes it to kind of glitch a little bit, and my microphone is not in the avatar, so it's doing something to take stuff out of the foreground and takes me out, but it still keeps my virtual background. So that's kind of neat.
I imagine that they were seeing a lot of people using secondary applications
Other
to do this, like
products,
SnapCam and this and that and whatever, and maybe that just led to a separate set of problems, or they thought it was a need and just wrapped it in there as a feature.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny. But no, I am impressed that it works over a virtual background too. So that's when you think about what it's doing. It's pretty interesting.
So why don't you share with everybody where you went to set an avatar?
So you go to the same place where you would choose your virtual background. So if you click the up caret next to your video icon, you can choose your virtual background. And then you'll have options of virtual backgrounds, video filters, which you cannot use while you're using your avatar. They are all grayed out for me. And then avatar, and it shows that it's in beta. And there's all different farm animals. Like I just disappeared, and now I'm a cow with a hoodie on, or I can be a cow with a shirt on instead. So you have options. I mean, it's not like, it's civilized, it's not you can choose your hoodie or your t-shirt, depending how cool you're trying to play it. And then, you can just turn it off. And then I'm back.
So I'm gonna kill the share And I'm going to put the stream screen grab on gallery so everybody can see. Okay, so now everybody pick their avatar. Everybody, Rupert, Ed, go back.
It's disabled for me. I think that's because of the settings in my account.
It's disabled for me as well, and I'm not sure why.
Oh, interesting.
Because
Must
I
be
have
some-
virtual backgrounds and everything disabled on my client, like on my corporate settings.
Yeah, that could be on the corporate settings.
Oh,
So
sorry.
if I
I didn't
click
realize you
on-
went with the grizzly bear also. I'll change mine up. I'll go back to my fox one.
So prerequisites for avatars are 5.10, the very latest release. That makes sense since we're just reading about them. When using an avatar, as Ed indicated, virtual backgrounds can be used at the same time, but not video filters. Then the how-to that he just explained. To change to start a video next to the stop video. Yep, went there. Nothing new there. So yeah, covered it all. Avatars do not use facial recognition and will not store any images of your face.
I did a little experimenting. If I put my hand over my face, it doesn't show up on my avatar. And I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Trying to decide whether it can detect my eyes blinking. It's not very good at it.
If I squint at it, it gets kind of squinty. So,
Mine's
if
doing it
I-
pretty well with the eyes.
So if I wink
I'm
one
blinking
eye,
fast.
it's a no. If I do
Okay.
both eyes, it's working, but one eye, it doesn't work. I don't think any of their released avatars have arms or paws at this point. And so we're not, I mean, although we appear to have like bodies and hoodies and stuff like that, I think it's all mouth, eyes, and slight expressions.
What about if you move to the side or completely off camera? How does it handle that?
I'm moving. Yeah, it definitely takes the lean. If I go way down.
It will eventually
Yep.
disappear. I'm off
Yeah,
camera.
once it loses you.
and Ed, it seems as though,
It looked like it went to sleep first.
well, no, because I moved the green screen that I have behind me out, but my virtual background is still there. So I think it might just overlay that instead of like it disables your camera entirely. So,
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Ah.
yeah,
Well,
it's my-
Holding a piece of paper causes my avatar to disappear after a couple of seconds.
because if I do this, I can put that way out of the way.
Yeah.
I see. So
And
if
if you
you're using an avatar, it's just displaying an image and superimposing a head
Well, I
based
just-
on your eye and head.
I just
movement.
changed virtual backgrounds to one of the stock moving ones, and I can go back. So
Right, but I don't think it's even using your camera feed. It's
Right.
redirecting the camera feed for, mouth recognition or something.
yeah, but it's tracking when I go side to side, and so if I blink both eyes, it's blinking both of the eyes of my, and if I blink one eye, it moves the eyebrow.
That's probably. I was thinking like
It's just
how
tracking my eyebrows actually.
how is like system performance going to handle all this stuff? But if that's all it's doing, it's probably lighter on the system than trying to do all the math of a virtual background, particularly a bad one or a bad key.
I can stick my tongue out at you guys. So it tracks. It's tracking some things.
Yeah.
Well, it's tracking eyebrows.
Yep.
So Muddy's providing some chat feedback as well. It does. He's saying that the Android release looks like there are no avatars. It doesn't clarify right now. It says prerequisites for avatars for the desktop client is Windows and Mac, and the mobile app. Oh, it says iOS 5.10. So yeah, no Android is listed right now.
Can you admit my room, Jeff? I was trying to see how the Zoom room would handle it.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would work
You not
with.
come in as a co-host, Rupert? Or are you on a different account?
I lead a different account, yeah.
I got
So
you.
Zoom Room is handling it, I guess. Avatar in my background here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I wonder if it would work with the immersive view.
Oh my goodness.
I think someone said no. Hang on. I think I saw. Yeah, it says avatar. It says avatars can be used in conjunction with virtual backgrounds and immersive view, allowing you and others to create an even more fun and captivating scene. So that's why that's what they're saying. It's going to be used fun and captivating. So.
I mean, the one like good thing I mean, it won't suit every use case, I think, but the way I can see it being perhaps helpful is just a middle ground to getting somebody on camera. You've got somebody who just doesn't want to be on camera, doesn't want to be on the thing. At least
where's AV Trainer? Let's get him an avatar.
At least it's like a way, I guess, of having a placeholder for somebody, I guess.
So Ed, stay on an avatar. David, stay on an avatar. And there we go. All right.
That's funny.
Can everybody see the immersive view that's on?
I see it. It looks funny.
It's not bad. I mean, it's not bad for, you guys are human beings, and
that's interesting.
Not your background, not yourself,
right?
But yeah.
The immersive view puts my Zoom Room in a state I've never seen it before, which is basically the immersive view with a gallery strip below it. I've never seen a gallery strip on a Zoom Room at all. But
interesting.
Yeah, this is pretty funny. And it's interesting what it does to my machine in immersive view. There you go. So it, obviously it takes away my virtual background to put in its own background to key it to, but it also turns off mirror my video, which is interesting. So I don't know why it would do that, but because that's only my view. It's only my view back to me. But.
Yeah, I can't imagine, really everything they have to think about on the development team, right? All the all the consequences and affected areas and so forth when they add something like this. Andrew E. Has he been in the waiting room a while?
I just put him in the waiting room. He didn't have he had his camera on, but it was a black screen and didn't have a picture or anything else, so I didn't know what to do with him. So I sent him a chat to light it up.
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks for checking that out. Okay, so back to some notes. So that was avatars. Excuse me. Live streaming to Twitch. Can do with Windows and Mac. Hosts can now live stream their meeting or webinar to Twitch directly rather than manually configuring the stream as a custom live streaming service. So that's a native stream option now. Enhancements to meeting UI for mobile, Android, and iOS. Various improvements to the in-meeting experience for mobile users, such as a new scrollable gallery view experience and making the self-view interactive so that users can easily change their virtual background filter. These changes will be rolled out gradually, and not all customers will immediately have these new improvements to the user experience. And if I bring chat back up, Muddy was saying something about mobile. New picture-on-picture feature on mobile is handy. Yeah, so you can flip over the release notes and so forth. So that's cool.
So, can we test something quick too? Because usually on mobile, when someone flips away from the meeting, their camera shuts off, right? As a security feature, especially on iOS. But I think with this picture-in-picture mode, if I switch, I'm going to switch portrait for a second to make this easier. But as I switch over, back to the meeting. But if I go out here, yeah, so Zoom is in a little picture-in-picture, and it looks like my camera should still be on based on the icon. Is that right?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
basically the rule of thumb is if you can see the meeting, even if it's minimized, if you can see the meeting, it can see you.
Okay, right on. So that's handy.
Very good. Picture-in-picture mode then. Yeah, when the Zoom app is minimized. That's one of the reasons I watch office hours in Zoom, by the way, because I can just go to other apps and do other things. And I think you can create a floating window in YouTube, but there's a few more, steps involved to having a floating window and then being able to, go to other apps, and then it's kind of in the way and so forth. So I can just escape and just listen at times until I go back as well. When the Zoom app is minimized be able to enter picture-in-picture mode, which allows them to still participate. Cool. Show invitee list in participants panel, Windows, Mac, and Linux. Account owners and admins can enable the show invitee list in panelists or participants panel setting that allows host, co-host, and alternative host to view a not joined section in the participants panel of the meeting. This section lists the people who were invited but have not yet joined. Man, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool when you have expected speakers.
Yeah, I'm wondering in this case whether there's a difference between what they're calling invitees and what I would think of as registrants. Do they have to be invited, or can you see a list of your registrations?
This is meeting and webinar, so yeah, I would, it'd be interesting. I mean, it says invitee. Let's dig into this one since we can. Viewing participant attendee status in a meeting. And so it says waiting room, joined, and then there's a section of not joined. And then the host can ask to join, which will invite them by calling them into the meeting, or choose chat.
It only works, prerequisites, it only works if you're using the Google or Outlook integration. So it is people who, it would be invitees,
from
not
your
registrants.
calendar, invitees, yeah. Yeah, mostly, I mean, the biggest advantage is going to be the corporate groups, right? But wanted to make sure that, the right managers or folks, who were invited are there.
If that were registrants, though, on meeting registrations, that would be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would also clutter up a lot, though. Potentially.
Yeah.
So limitations: the host of the meeting must join through the desktop client and be logged into their account. If not logged in, joining through the web browser or manually entering the meeting ID, the list cannot be extracted from the calendar event. Changes to the calendar event, such as new invitees, can take up to 10 minutes to sync. Participants must be logged into the account that matches the email address. That makes sense. Meeting cannot be scheduled as a PMI and cannot be a recurring meeting. Okay. Invite list max out at 200. The feature will only appear in meetings started up to approximately an hour before they are scheduled.
Sounds like a hot potato to me.
Yeah. Invitees must be added 1 hour before the scheduled start time. Interesting. Okay. Only meetings scheduled after this feature is enabled will be able to use it. All right. All right, so meeting only features. Rename participants, which we did while they're in the waiting room. Save breakout room assignments for future use.
That's awesome.
Is that what came out a little while back and then got recalled? Because this isn't the same.
Right. Yeah. So when they're created, they can save current configuration and participants' assignments, which can be used in the future. This is only available for recurring meetings and limited to 10 saved configurations per user. Shared audio with content to all breakout rooms. So finally we can do that. We've been able to do video to all breakout rooms, but it had no audio. So hosts are able to share computer audio along with shared content to all breakout rooms. Can be enabled when beginning the share. So if I were to, let's go share, pull this over, you can.
So are we already able to open up a mic into the breakout rooms, or is this just shared audio?
I think it's any audio that, say you share a PowerPoint that has embedded audio, or you share a video with audio, should be able to see both. But this is probably one worth an exercise.
Yeah,
I would think it's just sharing audio, not a mic.
I'm going to restart my share. I'm going to share my desktop instead of just the browser. Then I can pop up another one. Now you can see, yeah, okay. So if I were going to do another share, if I were to share the notes, I don't have breakout rooms right now, so I think that's why the option's not here, but it ends up being down here, isn't it, Ed, on the bottom with the share sound and optimize. There will be an option for...
No, go to your advanced tab. You should be able to just share audio, and then look at the little. There's a little down caret, right?
Yeah, but there's no breakout rooms to go to right now. It says mono or stereo.
Okay.
So here, Ed. Well, you're already a co-host. Configure and open a couple of breakout rooms with nobody assigned, would you?
Ooh. I hadn't noticed, I haven't done breakouts in a couple weeks. They include co-hosts when assigning check button.
I read about that, yeah, and now, I'm seeing what you're seeing.
So, all right, I'll just do...
Which is interesting. It makes you feel like they weren't included. The fact is they were included before. And now it lets you exclude them by unchecking them on this assign automatic. Here, I'll pull this over for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, so by unchecking this, so its natural check behavior is what it used to do, but now you can say, hey, don't move co-host automatically into breakouts. That's cool.
Yeah, that's great.
I wish they would add don't move the interpreters to breakout rooms as well, because that gets messy.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few roles that it would be nice to define, right? Host, co-host, interpreters, and so forth, so that they could follow some other rules as well. So you have those open. There we go. Okay. All right, so Ed's created 3 rooms.
And I pushed one of my other machines into it just now.
Okay. So with that, then if I were to want to share, then if I wanted to share, let's say, advanced video, which is their built-in video share program, which is, if it's a Zoom-only implementation, no vMix or OBS, virtual camera, this is probably the best way to share video these days to have a decent frame rate and resolution and so forth. But when you have breakout rooms open now, and when you click on this advanced video to share, it defaults to sharing the sound in mono. You can make that stereo. It defaults to optimize for video clip, and because there's breakout rooms open, you can share to the breakout room as well. So can you, you have audio on that other client that's in the breakout room, Ed?
I do.
Okay, so I'm going to click on that. It pops up a prompt. I can't make these bigger very easily. I think I can. Let's see. Here we go. Share screen to all breakout rooms. Your screen will be shared in the main session and in all breakout rooms. Your video and audio. Oh, they haven't fixed this prompt. Your video and audio will not be shared with breakout rooms. I don't get that because I just did it. Maybe it's because it's still in beta. Screens that others are sharing in rooms will be stopped. So if somebody is sharing in a breakout room, you're going to trump them. And so we will... oh, how do I kill the magnifier? There we go. So video shared. I'm going to say share. It pops that up. I'll click on share. It says, hey, what file do you want to share? Let me share and find. There's no sound on it. I'd bring this up, but there's no sound on it. So I'll just go to the handy dandy Josh, my son, sax player. And you have to let me know. You can hear it.
Yep. I can see it and hear it in the other room.
You can see it and hear it. And clear, smooth, good resolution.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And actually, hold on. I'll listen to... Oh, that's right. I was going to listen to both, see if they were close to in sync. But
very cool.
I took it out of my ear, so I didn't hear double, but I was just thinking, yeah, how close were they? But yeah, no, look good.
Don't see any breakout rooms to go into.
They are not set as user can user select.
Oh, they're manually assigned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can push you guys. Yeah, we can assign you to them. Okay,
Well,
so
here, I'll close the rooms and then I'll just recreate them as.
All right. Yeah, let's just go through the whole exercise then. Why don't you go ahead and get some people out into, and when they're there, then I'll share some video and audio.
Cool. Okay, anybody can choose the room they want.
And Jeff, while we're there, would you try to share desktop audio only at once as well, without the screen component?
Just audio, sure.
It looks like room 2 has a couple people joining. Room 3 has somebody.
Yep, and a couple more going into room 1. Okay, so I'm gonna get set up to share. I'll go audio only, so I'll go computer audio. If I choose computer audio under advanced, it does not let me select any of the options below. Share to breakout rooms.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. So right now, yeah, looks like it has to be a screen share, video share. Yeah, screen does, whiteboard does, iPhone is still there, and applications, but yeah, PowerPoint, portion of screen. But yeah, well, the moment I select computer audio, that's the only one actually. Computer audio actually grays out the share to breakout room option. So I'll go ahead and do the video again. We'll send, I don't think it's recorded in stereo, but I'll do stereo, optimize, share to breakout rooms, and I'll share. Find Josh. On my screen, it says participants can now see your application.
Okay, well, it makes sense because the release note about it.
Louder before I kill it, just to ask them, did it get loud?
I'm in a breakout room on my mobile phone.
Yeah, it changed volume.
You could hear the volume change and all. Yeah. Okay.
My Zoom room is in room 1, and I don't think I saw a screen or heard any video or heard any audio.
Oh, really?
You know, I didn't look over at my other screen, and that's where it was. I just heard it come up, and I saw the meters on my console. So I don't know. Try that one more time, maybe. Because I'm in room 1 with Rupert.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's there. Now, Rupert, in your room, do you maybe not have a screen that's showing content?
You have to have one. It's mandatory when there's a screen share.
Oh, okay.
Have you got screen sharing permission in that room with me? Like, can you share a screen there?
Nope. Host is disabled. Participant screen sharing.
Yeah, so even as a co-host,
well, I didn't co-host my other account.
But Rupert's a co-host,
right? But I'm a
on a different account.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me enable screen share, and then you can jump back out. Well, you're already in the breakout, right? See if you can share now. Without having to. Okay. So my enabling screen share in the main room enabled it in your breakouts as well.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yep.
So,
having said that, I don't know that I've ever maybe shared screens in breakouts in a Zoom room just don't work. I don't think I've ever tested. They do. Okay.
Yeah, they definitely do. I'm just looking for something to actually share. There we go. Let's see. Sure, this one looks good.
Yeah, see, it takes over immediately. And it wasn't doing that when Jeff was sharing from the main room. So, just an oddity, I guess, of shared screen from the main meeting into a breakout room on a Zoom room on a Tuesday when the wind blowing eastward.
Well, there's other things that Zoom rooms have an issue. Like Zoom room, the NDI for Zoom rooms doesn't work in breakout rooms either.
Mm.
So there's just a few things that don't work. But
So are you guys both sharing in your breakout rooms right now?
I'm sharing.
I'm not, because I'm the only client I have in.
If you're sharing, I'm going to go ahead and share the video again, and I should trump your share. Let's just confirm that.
Yep. And I get a pop-up that says your screen sharing has stopped because someone is sharing from the main session.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And does it come back or just stays dead?
No, stays dead.
Okay.
So what is the use case, do we think?
Well, I think the audio ad is huge. In the sense
and the way the release note's written, it says it has to be alongside other content. But no, what's great about this is like if you're doing breakout sessions, you can push everybody and then give them all the same video instruction of what's supposed to happen in the breakout room.
Well, but the other thing is you could have your company and departments or groups all distributed in breakout rooms and stream the keynote out to everybody,
right,
you know, without having to make a move and so forth. So that may be real beneficial.
Right, but then, you know, yes, you can do that, but why not just have them all in the general session at that point, you know, in the main room?
I guess you could make it kind of like almost like little mini watch parties. Like you could group your audience into groups of 10, like they're around a table, so they get to watch the presentation, like Jeff's saying, and then hang out amongst themselves.
Right. Well,
the thing that would separate is with a share, the unavoidable, spotlight on the side will never come from the main room. So you won't have that primary speaker of the main room. You'll have their share, but you won't have their video. And so it'll always be a local video of somebody.
So you'd have to like pump it in.
And you can't spotlight. So I'm assuming it'll be active speaker. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Okay.
You guys, and Jeff, you're referencing if you're using single monitor mode. Correct?
Side by side, single monitor mode. Yeah.
Yes. But in a meeting, when you're in side by side, does there have to be someone's image in that?
When it's in side by side, it's the unavoidable video square that has to be present. Whether you put I've put graphics up there, right?
Yeah.
Instead of people and so forth. But yeah, you can't not have that unless you have dual monitors.
But if you were doing side by side, it would only be the content that was being streamed to the breakout rooms.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe it's next. Who knows?
Yeah.
A report from our room. We saw the fellow playing the musical instrument several times. No sound at all.
No sound?
Wow. No sound.
Are you telling us the truth?
Robert, you were there. What did you hear?
Robert's laughing. Why is he laughing?
Because I tell you, it's quite overwhelming when you're having a conversation and suddenly someone comes on the screen and sort of takes over the whole.
That's true. That's true.
And sound and video. So it's.
Did you see? Yeah. Did you hear sound? I didn't hear any sound.
I heard everything.
I only heard you. I didn't hear that thing playing.
Maybe you don't hear when you're speaking.
What version are you on, Lois? What version of Zoom?
The latest version for Mac. So that is 5.10. No, I have 5.9.6, and they just installed a new version. Okay.
Yeah, it requires 5.10. So that would, but I mean, that's indicative though as well. I think it's important to note these days is there's some new features that won't let you in the meeting unless you are on that version or newer. There's a few like that. And that's the reason right now that like Zoom OSC can't connect to some meetings, because those meetings, Zoom Test Kitchen in particular, is the same. I have the same problem in Zoom Test Kitchen because I have like all the features turned on, and I don't have an exact list, but there's 2 or 3 features in particular that cause an auto update. So you come to the meeting, it automatically runs an update. You go, oh, well, that's kind of cool. Okay, and then it lets you in. But Zoom OSC can't do that. It can't let you auto update, and because it can't, it will never meet the requirements to that 1 or 2 features that have been enabled. Therefore, it can't get in the meeting, and so this feature, Lois is still in the meeting, which is good, but the feature itself just doesn't play the audio. Yeah, Lois.
So I went and checked if I was updated, and it said, "Oh no, you're not. You haven't logged in since yesterday," and did it, and now I'm back. So now, do you think I would hear the sound, or do you think that was the problem?
Did you leave the meeting and come back and all that time?
Yeah,
okay.
I went away.
Yeah, go ahead.
You noticed? Jeff, you didn't.
I didn't. I was looking at my camera instead, I guess. So yeah, jump into one of the breakouts.
I'm going into room 3. That's a good one. It was good for me last time. I'll go to room 3.
All right.
also seems that you can't get a Zoom room to auto join a breakout room once it's invited.
Mm.
You can't, Rupert, you're saying you can't join a room that you've already been invited to?
You can't, you have to accept it on the Zoom room. Like I have my Zoom room to accept incoming meeting invitations. So it'll accept the main meeting, but then when you go to move it to a room, you have to get on the controller and say, move to room. You accept the move. So I can hear the people talking in the room, like through my open speakers on my Zoom room, but no screen share and no audio.
Really? I'm going to move my other account.
Well, is the Zoom room updated though? Because it says Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. It's a meeting feature.
Avatars work in breakout rooms. Hey, play that again, Jeff, real quick. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Here comes
so I
my
hear
boy
it in the breakout room.
So you can hear it.
Yep.
But
And I went to the same room that Rupert's room is in.
Is that a Zoom
so you can
client
hear it,
or
but
a
the
Zoom room?
can't.
It says your room. You went to room 3 with it.
But did you join a client or a Zoom room?
Oh, sorry, I'm in with a client.
So the room's
I
getting
heard
it
it.
for sure.
Oh.
And you heard it. Yes.
And avatars work.
Success.
So that was something that was from 2 days ago.
Yeah. Cool.
My room is at 593. Maybe there is an update.
Muddy, you're asking. What do you say? Yeah, you're here just off camera. Can you hear me, Muddy? I'm going to answer your question on chat. Did you ever share just the desktop audio? Hoping you can hear this. The answer is I tried, but the one share icon out of desktop, application, screens, all that, the one that you select for computer audio, it grays out the option to all breakout rooms.
And so there is no new or existing way of just opening a mic to breakout rooms. Like PA, there's nothing like that.
Yeah, that behavior we identified as right now confirms that. So if I wanted to share audio to all breakout rooms, I'd have to consume the desktop with at least a graphic coming from like my virtual camera or a share or something like that.
I guess you could have a slide that says paging announcement and then do a loop back something. I think that would be really useful. You've got everybody in sessions and you want to, you can right now, you can send them a chat message, say, hey, 5 minutes left, but whatever, something like that. But if you could actually...
You could share a timer that has music embedded in it and everybody seeing the same exact timer.
The problem is that if you've got a leader in your breakout session wanting to share content, share slides or share their presentation, then you're going to have a kind of conflict, I guess.
Yeah.
I wish there was a way in a breakout room to dim the volume of the shared screen so that we could continue with the conversation that was happening.
That's true. Yep. Yeah, I can control it on the player, but everybody in each breakout room may have their own preference of ducking that audio. Yeah.
So Jeff, do you have a second camera connected to the machine you're on right now?
No, I have not to the machine I've got right now. I just have my one camera going through vMix.
I'd be interested to see about sharing Well, I'm going to actually look at it for a second.
The share content from second camera.
Yeah, so yeah. I can click that to share. Sorry, I just got in with my portal.
I do have.
I'm going to test my portal into
I'll check that
a breakout room.
The share content from second camera, I believe, is low frame rate because it's like a.
Well, you can check optimize for video. So I'd be interested to see if that worked. I don't have a second camera set up, but
that's been there for a little while.
Yeah, it does. It does work. I've seen it work. Last I saw it was. It's intended for like a document camera, kind of that kind of deal, and it comes through as a screen. It comes through as if it were a screen share. Big yellow, big right. Green thing.
So this might be actually kind of cool. Hold on, I can set up my NDI to do this. Let me. Yep. Okay. All right, so I have to remember how to switch cameras. This is going to get weird for me because I'm using
a little rotator.
There it is. I see it. Oh, okay. So as I'm sharing, I did get a pop-up that said participants with older versions of the client will not hear the shared sound. There's my OBS. Okay, so this... All right, this is the one that's not reversed for me. So this is my and you're probably seeing me twice, but that's my NDI camera.
Yeah, and I'm getting 1280 by 720 at 30 frames.
Yeah,
1080 at 30 frames.
Yeah, there you
go. I only see you once. What would the other thing be called?
No.
Well, if you have
he's
two,
in the share. Yeah,
I'm in the share, and I'm
in the gallery.
Yeah,
and those
with
are
the same camera
sources. Yeah, same camera but two sources.
Yeah, one's NDI and one's not. So in the and let me see.
I could see in the breakout room, but not hear you, of course.
Yeah, I'm just noticing that as well.
Is your NDI picking up the right audio?
That's exactly what it is. Let me fix my NDI so that it takes my. It is. It should be. I'll have it do that, and let's see if that fixes it. So let's see in the breakout room. No, I still don't hear myself doubled. I would. This is because I'm trying to do too many things on the same machine. Yeah, that's there. I don't know why it's... That might also be a... Oh, well, okay. There we go. Let me try this. So I switched my camera audio. No, it's still not coming through for some reason. Yeah.
I don't think content from a second camera ever has audio.
Yeah, that's quite possible because your audio source is not changing, even though it's changed your video source.
That's true. I have share sound enabled though. So I would have thought it would have done that, but maybe not. Interesting. What I can do one other test. I'm just wondering if I'm trying to use too many resources by sending it the same camera and audio. So let me put something in with...
No, I think that idea of audio...
I didn't get that. What was that?
Still lost signal. Well, let's keep playing with that while I read through some other features as well. See if you hit success, let us know. So we're moving into webinar features, which is the webinar backstage, which is like green room. It says the webinar host and other panelists can move between the backstage area, which is not visible or heard by attendees, and the live webinar area, which is visible to and heard by attendees. So the live webinar versus the backstage. Panelists backstage can still hear and view the live webinar to keep an eye on the presentation and to know when to rejoin. This feature requires version 5.10 or higher for panelists, and the host must have a Zoom Events license. Interesting. Okay. This feature will not be immediately available as it is dependent on a back-end server update currently scheduled for April 9th. So it's ready, and so they've released it, but they've still got to do the back-end servers, and so that's a couple weeks out yet.
So I think we discussed this maybe a little bit last week. The caveat there of the Zoom Events license is kind of interesting, and I think we discussed whether this feature is only going to be available when you use your webinar through Zoom Events, or whether the very fact that you have a Zoom Events license maybe to the side allows you to use the standalone webinar with Backstage.
Yeah, that's an interesting, really interesting need to know for sure. Because, you know, to just host a single webinar and have to do that through setting up a event is a pain in the rear. And comparatively to where if your account that you've launched the webinar with, they can look and see if you have a Zoom Events license, therefore you can use Backstage, that would be it seemingly much more convenient.
Yeah, because at the lower levels, the lower capacities, the price difference between webinar and events isn't that much, and it's pretty compelling to go to events just in case you need it, so long as you can use all the features in a standalone webinar.
Mm-hmm. It states at the bottom of the pricing page, the sentence at the very bottom of that stack says, with your purchase of Zoom Events, you will be able to schedule webinars in the webinar portal with all the benefits of that which come with Zoom webinar license.
Well, it's true.
You can just fire up a webinar if you want, or you make it an event. That's the bonus of paying for the additional features.
But if all you do is send out an invite for a webinar, not a Zoom Events webinar, the deal is will it look to see if your account also has a Zoom Events license, therefore let you use Backstage, or do you have to create a kind of simple Zoom event to get to the webinar to then have Backstage?
Yeah, I think what Leland just read suggests that you will be able to use.
All right.
I mean, that's how I understood what he read, and that is
you
the
can
case.
all find it. It's at Zoom US pricing events. It's at the right side column at the bottom of the pricing for the events package.
It says to enable and use Webinar Backstage, you must have a Zoom Events license. It doesn't say you have to use it. You just have to have it. Notes, panelists who joined from the older version. Webinar attendees do not need to meet this requirement, as Webinar Backstage only affects the host and the panelists. Okay. How to use. Note, when using dual monitor mode, one screen will display the standard Backstage view while the other is dedicated to the live webinar view. That's cool. While in the Backstage area, so when joining a webinar with Backstage enabled, panelists will join the Backstage area automatically. whether the webinar is open to attendees or not. This avoids late arrivals appearing in front of attendees before they're ready. While in the backstage area, the screen is split horizontally, so I think that's if it's a single monitor, with the live webinar above and everyone in the backstage area below. The ratio of how much space can be adjusted. Before the webinar officially starts, the area for the live webinar will display a clear off-air message to make it clear that no attendees are viewing the webinar yet. And then the dual monitor mode that I read. Just as with the practice session, the host will need to start the webinar. When they're ready, the host will click start. Webinar, otherwise attendees will see the host will be right back. All panelists in live. Kind of cool. Moving yourself between to move into the live webinar and be visible to webinar attendees on the meeting toolbar, click the webinar button and then confirm by clicking go to webinar. You will be immediately moved into the live webinar area. To move in the backstage, you do exactly the same thing, the opposite direction.
Okay, I just found something here on that same page for pricing events. Do I need to have both a Zoom video webinar license as well as a Zoom events license? The Zoom events license comes with access to schedule webinars in the Zoom video webinar portal, and all webinar features are included. You will not be able to host a Zoom video webinar from the portal and a Zoom event at the same time using the same license. So that kind of tells me you have the option to do one or the other. You have either a single sitting event for a webinar, or you go onto a Zoom event, which includes the ability to tie the meetings and have the back room. I doubt you're going to get the green room, like you're saying. You want to be able to have access to the green room on the webinar. It's two separate packages. They're just adding the extra stuff into the events platform. So you use one or the other, basically, at which time. I see what you're asking, if you can get the Zoom events license and use a green room for a regular webinar, correct? That's what I was hearing.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do that.
We shall see. The other part of it is, of course, that we have seen features get deployed to Zoom events first and then flow down to webinar later. So it may come later, maybe.
Well, that was like, Jeff, I wanted to ask you a question, not to derail this topic, but just getting into the meeting today here, I had to jump through a lot of hoops, and I really don't understand why. I'm a registered user. Maybe I was registered on a different email account because I have several Zoom accounts, but I always go to a registration page when I come here that's half filled out, and I have to enter like the city and the state or the city and the zip, and it leaves the basic questions that you have as optional. And then it says join this event. Today, it kept kicking me back without letting me actually join the event at all. I couldn't get into the room until I went to Zoom US, re-entered, and then copied the link over. Or I had to go to Facebook, actually, to get back to the link to find a way to open it. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Has anyone else experienced that but me, or is it just
I had the same thing today specifically, yeah.
Okay.
Now the form being filled out halfway, that's just your local cookie cache, filling that stuff
cache,
in. Yeah. So that's nothing like unique to the registration specifically.
Jeff, do you have authentication still on?
That's what I was wondering. I just need you to know, Jeff, so that your audience isn't having a tough time getting in here.
Yeah. Because I have that every time I'm not logged into my Zoom client.
So I don't use a link. I just type in the numbers and then click join and then put the password. And so I didn't see anything.
I tried to do that and still got redirected to the registration page.
Really? Yeah. Well, I got in twice this morning, so we're cool.
Try it. I have some.
So yeah, let me take a look at the options. Yeah, says registration's required, and then there's three options. So the one that I've got selected as attendees register once and can attend any of the occurrences. So you shouldn't be, I mean, that description to me says you shouldn't re-hassle anybody for the data more than once. But I do also have require authentication, which means if you're coming in to register, Zoom already has to know who you are. You have to be authenticated with your Zoom account.
And I have several, and I think it has to do with which one I'm tied to you with, because that's the key. If I've used several emails, you may have me listed 3 times on your Zoom test kitchen.
Right, and I'm in that case. I have 3 registrations under 3 different emails. I even went to find the specific invitation that related to the account that I'm currently logged in as, and I still have the same problem.
So do you have a password on this? Let me ask you that, or no? It's built into the link.
Yeah, the zKitchen.
But I'm just taking this.
Well, it's not built into the link. The link I publish is the registration link. I don't publish. Okay. I don't publish the actual meeting link.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I could, but and if they're not registered, then it will redirect them. But
well, I'll copy this one in the Zoom and just keep that on hand, and I should be able to jump in.
I guess the best one is if you did, Leland, when you re-registered, did you get a fresh Zoom email confirmation?
Good question.
And if you
yes, I did.
Right, then that should contain like your latest, freshest join link.
Yeah, I got
so
you.
in theory, that should be at this from this point forward. Link. Should well maybe it may have a different.
Here, I mean, in the room. That's all.
Yeah, it may have a different token, I guess, but in theory, that would be your most relevant.
Well, I wonder if remember one of the last times we went through features that your email with Zoom, the one you're logged in with the client, the one you're going to with the registration page, the whole Zoom events type bonding, that was coming. And I wonder if that's in place now and it's become more not seamless as inconvenient, but has to be that account through and through, which sounds like the experience. All right.
And it wouldn't matter to people that just have a single email account. That's easy peasy.
Yeah. No, when we're jumping from one to the other, I mean, I'm in the meeting 3 times with 3 different accounts myself right now. And
true. Yeah. Okay, well, I didn't mean to derail everything there. Sorry.
No problem. No, it's good to know. Good to know. I've removed the Zoom authentication piece of it because registration is in place. So we'll see if that helps a little bit. All right. Okay, so and then this page. So this page I'm looking at digs into. I'll put it in the chat. Digs into backstage detail, and there's also a section on controlling the volume and closed captioning in backstage. So it sounds like they've got several things covered there.
Jeff, can I try something really quick?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I'm still looking at ways around that thing, and it doesn't seem like I'll be able to do just the computer audio without. Okay, so Document Cam will let you share sound, but it's computer sound, so I couldn't get microphone to work that way. I can think of a way to do it, like using VB audio cable or something. But so I'll have to test that another time. It's still, even if you do the document camera, it's going to put some kind of image up.
Did you find on the device bar that you can actually turn on the audio there too to share sound after you start the share? Let's see if that's on. Because it should.
So you're saying just do a share and then
on the menu bar where it says more, you should be able to click on that and it'll say share.
Yeah. So and this is specific to the breakout rooms. Yeah, you're supposed to be able to do that. What we were trying to see is could you get a live mic into all the breakout rooms from the main session?
Ed,
yeah.
What about using something like Video Hijack? Take your microphone, move it into something that's not a microphone, and then direct that into Zoom. Would that work?
Yeah, that's exactly what you'd need to do. Some kind of audio hijack, VB cable, something like that.
Right, that's what I was saying. Yeah, with VB cable or loopback, you could do that, and then you would take your microphone and make it your system audio, and then that's what you would be able to share into the room. And then Zoom is can be independent of your system audio, so you can actually have those be separate paths for when you're in the main session. But yeah, that would be the only workaround that I would have to test to see if that worked.
I guess the problem there is that system audio means it'll pick up your default system audio. So you would have to have your regular Zoom earpiece coming through a separate device. Otherwise, it's going to capture your system audio, which might include your Zoom talkback.
Which is what I do anyway. I mean, I use my Dante out to something else, and that's what my Zoom speaker is not my system audio. I typically don't do that.
And the other trick is that system audio can also contain notifications or just
but you can go into the Windows mixer and drop that stuff, and same thing on Mac. You can disable notifications. So it's just I'm looking for any kind of workaround. That would be the thing I would test is like getting your microphone using some sort of virtual audio cable as your system output, because that's the only thing Zoom will share to all those breakout rooms as an audio source.
So how about this though? If you wanted the keynote speaker to be shared video and audio into all the breakout rooms, now that keynote supports live cameras and audio, you should be able to embed your primary camera and audio into the keynote, share the keynote to all breakout rooms, and then you should be able to have your main speaker speaking and being seen in all the breakout rooms, would be my guess. I don't know if anybody here's able to kind of quickly tee that up. It's pretty easy to add the video to keynote, but I'm not ready on a Mac. It's a Mac thing. So
yeah, same here. I'm not ready on a Mac. And for a PC, that's
see what I can do here.
Okay. Yeah,
What about, I know all of you has all this gear. What about just taking a separate, simple little computer, little laptop or something, and making that do all of this stuff so it doesn't get involved in your main room, just a separate...
I was thinking that you could do that, or have a separate machine or a separate little bot or an instance or something, and that would work, I guess, if you're a small scale, 1, 2, 3 rooms. But if you're doing a big project with 10 rooms, you have to come up with a solution that's scalable and manageable, and having separate machines in there might be.
Don't you have one input that you then are splitting to the other rooms? I mean, if I'm only playing...
Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Use that as the input.
Yeah. A separate source machine to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that would keep you from getting so convoluted and having the wrong button pushed and all of a sudden doing something weird.
Just I think just I'm running through the use cases. The unfortunate part of this just seems to be that it will override anything that's going on in the room. So if you have a group leader in there doing some kind of presentation, you're going to walk all over them either on the way in or the way out. And so I don't know.
I agree with you on that, Rupert. Sorry, carry on, Lois. Yeah, Lois and I were in the breakout room, and when the image and sound come in, it's really overwhelming. It just takes over the whole space.
Right. And the use case of like using it to give initial instructions to your people in the breakout rooms doesn't. Okay, maybe, but at scale, I never understand that scenario, because likely each breakout room is going to have a different type of exercise, different type of instructions, different leader. Maybe not. Maybe it's a generic set. But if you've got many rooms and many different groups doing many different things, playing them all a slide or presentation with instructions it's not very efficient unless that's your workflow. But I don't know.
I suppose the introduction could be done before you break them up into breakout rooms.
Right.
If it's the same introduction. I'm assuming that you can play different things in different rooms. You don't have to play the same thing in all the rooms. Is that correct?
Well, the share to breakout rooms is a global breakout rooms right
that's
now.
Too bad.
Yeah, you can't select which ones.
Now, if you need separate things in each room, that to me is where you have a leader in each room, and they're going to play their initial instructions to the group.
Because you can do a share in a breakout room, right?
As long as sharing is enabled in the main room by the host.
Okay, so here's a question. If I'm in a breakout room and I'm sharing something, then when the host says share to all breakout rooms, does that override me?
Yes. Yeah, we tested. Yeah, we tested that, and yours doesn't come back when the other one stops, so it walks all over it.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds and feels more practical to be when they first distribute, because then that's the starter moment. But then it kind of needs to go away so that the breakout room can become a gallery, right? And not have the primary piece be the share. But if that's the most, kind of unintrusive moment, then you could have just done that in the main session before you distributed everybody. Hello, David.
And you could tell it that the breakout room ends in half an hour, give it 120 seconds, and then during that 120 seconds, play an exiting video to tell them what to do next.
Yeah, I guess if you want to cut off your breakout room or stop them doing whatever it is they're doing, and absolutely say your time ends now, doing this is a good way of achieving it because it'll cut off whatever.
Well, no, what I'm saying is not to do this until after they have been notified. That'll pop up on your screen that says the room is closing in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Who is that little person with Ed?
That's a mini Ed.
Zephyr.
Hi, Zephyr.
Hey, where did that minion come from? I don't know where that minion come from.
All the pictures, he got that one. You're quick.
That minion is a sucker. That minion is weird. He's weird. I don't want to marry him.
You're so silly.
I just want to marry that minion. He's a butt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
Somebody pushed the mute button. Jeffrey, that's not cool. She's just here. Ed, your mute button has been pushed somehow.
Oh, yeah, I muted him because he's getting silly.
No, I'm not. You are the silly dad. You are sucker dad.
Yeah, I'm a sucker, I know.
Stop it. I need to talk.
So there's a fox up here.
Hey,
And
say bye, everybody.
Hey, who's that dog?
Say bye, everybody.
Who's that
Fox
dog?
Jeff. Fox is Lois.
Oh, what happened?
Lois is the fox, and
I look away and everybody became a cartoon
You
character.
know that.
hey, say goodbye to everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Shalom, Rabbi.
Leland, just to let you know, we were looking for use cases earlier on how to use these.
Gotcha.
What are they called? So here's a good example.
Thank you. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that worked well.
Yeah. That was
Not as quickly as that minion though.
No, yeah, the minion was a big hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
all right, so
I'm going to get going
here.
actually. So I didn't want
All
to.
right, Ed.
But I will. I'll see everybody, and I look forward to testing some more of these things. I will say, sorry, he's playing with my lights now. The one thing I am a little bummed about is that I feel was a little bait and switchy as a feature was the webinar backstage, because in all the talk because they've been talking about the backstage thing for a long time, it was never going to be only if you had a Zoom Events license. So I'm pretty disappointed to read that in these release notes, as that was a feature I was very much looking forward to. So.
Well, maybe it's only temporary until it's.
Yeah, it could be.
We'll see.
And again, at the lower levels, like the 500 capacity, the price difference isn't that much, and they'll cut you a deal on an upgrade too.
Yeah, but the thing about it is it's so much simpler to just schedule a webinar than it is to set up even a basic Zoom event. As far as having to get pictures and graphics and a bio and all that jazz, right?
So I do know for sure, pretty certain that you can, with a Zoom Events license, you can set up a webinar. It's just a question of whether you inherit all the absolute features of what they're now giving you in events. I know for sure that if you have a Zoom Events license, you can use the webinar standalone. And we've been told that, and that's the language that the Leland read. I think it's just a question of whether you get all the absolute features.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll be testing it as soon as it's fully rolled out, because that's even if I have to just get the Zoom Events license or do the demo to test it, but hopefully they kind of open it up to the rest of the world at some point where you don't have to have the Zoom Events license. But.
Well, we'll take a look. I'll see. I mean, I know Sam, will come back. I don't know if Sam's, the right guy, or or if Kevin Babcock knows, or there's Sam a gal I know here in Overland Park that is part of the webinar group, and so we'll find somebody to see if they can come in and provide some clarification. Even that would be good.
Cool. And hey, Jeff, we're doing Companion on Sunday on AV Tech Talks. If you want to swing by, we're going to look at the whole new because they just came out with the new stable release. So we have someone from the core development team coming on to walk us through the new features. There's actually a couple really cool new features, and then look at the new UI. Which, if you've used beta builds, you've already seen it, but it should be pretty cool. So
very cool. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. Yeah. All right.
Catch you all later.
Good seeing you. Take care.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm a little late. I threw something in the Facebook group. I'd love to get the folks from Twine on here. I don't know if you guys know about Twine for Zoom. It's a really interesting implementation of visual breakout rooms. Do you all know about it at all, or a little bit?
I've only heard of it.
I use Fathom, but I've never heard of Twine. It's an app inside Zoom?
It's a Zoom app. It's in closed beta now, but I can give you guys a code if you want to get into it. And basically, it allows you to, it gives you visual breakout rooms. So there are a few things you can do. You can, this is the map where you can decide how many rooms, how many tables you want to have. Eventually, you'll be able to name the tables, and then people can choose to go there. Or if you go in, no, see, now it's not going to work because this isn't my meeting, but you can also do A/B. So you can say, if you're a developer and a customer, you can identify yourself. It's to say, I'm a developer and I want to meet with another developer, or I'm a developer and I want to meet with with a customer, and then it will automatically pair you based on those choices you made. And then you can identify. You can say, I want to have 2-minute rounds and I want to have 5 of them, and then after 2 minutes, it'll automatically reshuffle everyone.
Sounds a bit like the expo hall, but for meetings with a plugin.
Right. Yeah. So the problem with it now is that everyone has to have, there's a way to do it without everyone having the app, but it's very, very limited. So right now everyone has to have the app, but they're actually working on figuring out a way for people to not have to have the app and just be able to interface with it, maybe through a web portal or something like that.
What do you mean by a visual breakout room? I mean, we have vision in our breakout rooms now.
No, so if you look at what I have on screen, you see there's a table there. So if this were my meeting, I could say, I want to have 5 tables. Then you'll see 5 tables. And then if I go sit at one of those tables, it'll show my avatar there. And that is a breakout room. So then I can see who's in that breakout room, and I can decide to join that breakout room. That's the map version of this.
It's basically visualizing what we see as now a kind of a list of breakout rooms, just as a linear list. This is a 2-dimensional graphical layout view of
graphical is the better way to say it. Yeah. I don't know. I was really excited by it. I think it's a really neat idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had read about, I do remember reading about this a while back, and if you know what you want it to do intelligently, that helps you define what kind of data you want to collect from the people before they ever arrive, right? And so they can fill out, like a skills assessment or an age assessment or where were you born assessment, right? And so it can intelligently break those groups and create those groups on the fly based on that data, right? And
I think apps also work really well in organizations where you've got administrative control over everybody's installation, their environment, their apps, their permissions, all that stuff. But to a wide public audience where you do have these dependencies, right now, that I think that's a bit challenging until they figure it out via a generic interface, I guess.
Well, one of the things they try to do when these live events online started to come about was to come up with like this. There's a term, and it's not homogeneous, but it's where you're literally recreating the event style, the tables, the chairs, the booths, all of that to make it look literally virtual, like you're walking into an event center. And those didn't go very well. They didn't fly at all back in 2005, 2008, 2010. That stuff tried to catch on, but nobody got it. So now we're seeing the same thing rehashed with AI and VR, where we're taking these meeting rooms and trying to make them look more like an event stage or more like an auditorium where you have tables and chairs.
Well, I think the first implementations hit people's processors and graphics cards hard because they tried to do a literal 3D walkthrough and so forth, where I don't think Twine is that. It's more AI on the data than the graphical simulation. Would that be correct, David?
I think so, yeah. I mean, the biggest plus to me is things like spatial.chat or wonder.me. They're fun, they're nice, but they're not solid on mobile devices. So anyone who's joining from an iPad is going to struggle. This is built right into Zoom, and everyone, for better or worse, knows how to, make their way around Zoom. So
it's stable.
So, do you have a contact there, David?
Yeah, I met with the developer owner, whatever his name is. I can definitely put you in touch with him.
Yeah, that'd be great. No, I'd love to have him come in.
You mentioned the code. Does that pop up when you try to install and run the app?
Yeah, when you can download it from the Zoom App Store, and then when you
got it.
I'll put it in the chat because I don't want to
the link
say
there, Rabbi. I already put it there about 2 minutes ago. So if people want to find it, it's there.
Oh, you got it already? Great.
Yep.
Oh no, but you need the code.
Yeah, I just have it to visit the app so they get the app.
Yeah,
and actually activate it because you have to activate it through your Zoom account.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, let's get that on the calendar for sure. Let's share again. And the list is long. Webinar session branding. So Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, and iOS hosts can now customize the appearance of the in-webinar experience by adding a wallpaper behind the video tiles. So the black space behind everybody's video tiles, we can create a graphic there. Requires 5.10 to use and or view, but does not require this version to join. So they're starting to make these distinguishable points. I wish they'd come up with some icons or something that, just let us know, hey, you either have this version or you're not in, but they've spelled it out here. If you don't have the version, you won't see the background, but you'll still be able to get in the webinar, which is hugely important when it comes to doing an event with audience and so forth, right? And then did somebody have, was that Rupert?
I guess it's good that it doesn't cause a roadblock or a problem. I guess the challenge then comes, is later if you've got somebody hosting a meeting, some presenter, and they believe that everybody is seeing some kind of branded wallpaper and maybe they even refer to it. There may be some people who are not even seeing it, and I don't see here how it acts on their mobile devices. That might be a different story, but I do find these circumstances where the presenter thinks, maybe rightly, that everybody is seeing what they believe they are seeing, and actual experience mileage can vary in the field.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There may be another feature that they've got turned on that does require it, a little pre-marketing, to update. But if there is a feature what this is also saying is, it requires 5.10 to be able to see it or use it, but does not require it to join the webinar. the features that require 5.10, or you're not in the meeting, remember there's another spot between you either have it or you're out. No, it's you don't have it. It does an auto update, and then you're in. And so the ones who won't be able to get in will be some of the corporate customers who have been locked down by their admins so that those auto updates can't be applied. Those would be the trailers that would still have an issue. Reactions for webinar. Webinar attendees can use reactions similar to reactions in meeting. The stream of submitted reactions are displayed in the bottom right corner of the main window, webinar window, visible to the host, panelists, and attendees. This can be controlled within the webinar as well as in the back-end settings. Requires 5.9.6. I guess I didn't really realize reactions weren't in webinar.
I think all you have in webinar is raise hand.
Yeah.
As an attendee.
And so that always, that section was always interesting to me. So in a meeting, raise hand is always under the button of reactions and feedback, right? It's tucked under the I want to see if I can see it here.
It's got a nice big bar.
It's under my more button right now.
Not always, Jeff.
No, I know. So most commonly is if you have reactions enabled and the feedback enabled, then raise hand will also be in that grouping, if you will. In meetings. If you, the only way I know how to say, I want the raise hand to be on the toolbar. And the only way I'm aware of making that happen in meeting is to turn off the other two features, and then the raise hand will be the icon on the toolbar. The only exception to that is if you shrink your Zoom window or have a low resolution monitor, all the stuff that can't fit across the toolbar goes under the more button, and they just have to know that more button can grow with features. But in webinar, you can. It's not that it's front facing, but the question is here's the real question. Kind of the pop quiz is: can you disable raise hand in a meeting? And I do believe the answer is still no. Can you disable raise hand in webinar? And the answer is yes. But you have to do it in webinar. So you have to launch it, and then it's under like the participants window, right, on the bottom right, to where you can disable the raise hand. But that's only in webinar, not in meetings. All right, that was just a kind of extra side note. Back to the notes. Hide profile pictures for unmuted.
Sorry, Jeff. Can I just one thing on those reactions? I think there's one real big difference here that Zoom has introduced. When in a meeting, when you have a reaction, the reaction is on your picture. While in webinar, the reactions come on the screen, and so the speaker sees all of these reactions, and it's really good feedback because you can never tell who's actually reacting to you, what you're saying in a meeting, unless you're sitting there going through all of the, just going down the list of people or looking at different screens. So it's much, much more user-friendly in that way.
So
where do they see it on screen in webinar?
It says the stream of submitted reactions are displayed in the bottom right corner of the main webinar window, visible to the host, panelists, and attendees.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they pop up.
If you can just share this link, you'll see it, Jeff.
Share which link?
In the chat.
In the chat.
I'm worrying that you won't be able to. Oh dear, that's going to make screen scraping a challenge, isn't it? Because you can't pop.
You're going to scrape them all.
Can you pop that out into a? I imagine you would also see the reactions in the participant list when you're looking at the attendee column, the tab, attendee tab.
Yeah, that's where I've seen them before. These look like they float up and then fade away.
Yeah, it looks like the Twitch. It looks like the whole Twitch thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, and fade away within seconds.
TikTok does it.
If you're sharing the screen as a panel reaction, also on the bottom right corner, share. Yeah.
Look under the more option. And that's another view that can be controlled under the sharing option. Oh, you just passed how to enable it. So you may be able to turn it off. If you go back up to where you just were, right there above, how to enable webinar reactions.
That's on the back end portal.
Yeah, there was something down there about adjusting the view too. Further down.
That's right.
How, sending reaction. Adjusting how you view webinar reactions.
Click the up button.
Everyone can control them individually without affecting the other's views. Top right, pop it up. All reactions will float. All reactions rise up from the bottom right, but will not float further up and will fade after a second. Others' reactions will not appear, but your reactions will. So, okay.
So I don't know exactly where this feature is going to go, but I can see in a few months later down the path that somebody will want a report of the timeline of the meeting and saying where were our reaction
hot
hotspots?
topics? Yeah.
That's, I know.
Well,
I can just taste it
the
coming.
meeting, I mean, goodness sakes, like Rupert's helped me out with the meeting that has 800-900 people in it, and the bigger the numbers, the more feedback you get. Like even if you can go from full to compact to hidden, they don't care. They just want to piss and moan about it in the chat and tell you to shut it off. And it's like, you can't shut it off, and you have to, shoot them instructions and so forth. The chat pop-up alerts was one of those things as well. I mean, how do you turn off chat pop-up bubbles? And it's actually a real pain in the
I
butt.
can actually imagine a report of the reactions being pretty helpful. For future planning.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I can just see it as the next as a natural question, further down the line.
It's like a heat chart, right?
Right.
At what point did the speaker say this, and what kind of reaction did they get? Absolutely.
We get this question.
But then the next report somebody will want is, we want to know who the deadbeats are who created no reactions.
And then and then the attendees will want a freedom of information request of their GDPR data.
Yep, never ends. And then you can disable them. So in the webinar controls, click participants. In the bottom right corner, click more, and then enable reactions, which means you can uncheck them as well. And so they can be turned off in webinar. All right.
As far as getting rid of the chat bubbles, if you simply turn on the chat panel and just put it over to the side, you won't get any more.
Yep. Yeah, that's what we told them. But if they, that's not an option on a single monitor. I mean, you can't take it and put it on another monitor, but you can drop it down to where all you see is the title bar of the chat window, and then it causes the pop-ups to stop, and you don't have to look at the chat messages. So yeah, I don't know. I wish there was a way to just shut them off if people don't want to see them.
So that's a good segue, because here we're coming on the next on the list here is chat features, and I just always remind myself and remind others that when in the release notes we see features about chat, it's not meeting chat like we've just been talking about. It's the in-app chat.
It's in-app versus in-meeting,
right.
And so it's Yeah, it's like the private messenger. So I am gonna not spend time there.
Lois has a hand up also.
Lois has to leave because I do this other meeting, and I was wondering if we could interrupt this for a question, and then you can come back to this after I leave.
I think we're actually done with the ones that we focus on the most. So yeah, go ahead.
So, trying to think out loud about best practices and ways to make things go smoothly. Assume that you had a forest fire outside a couple of towns. And so you've got all these people and they are now dispersed and they're trying to find each other. So if you make a Zoom meeting for people to communicate with each other, get back to each other, what would be some things to think about? Okay, so make it a specific time that you can publicize the time so people can call in. Make it open enough so that people who have to go to the library and use the browser can get in. So you aren't requiring, justification and registration, all that other stuff. So then here we are, and I'm sitting here. I'm a host, and I got like 3 or 4 co-hosts with me. And there's going to be 100, 1,000, I don't know, depends on the size of the fire. How are we going to manage it when people come in and say, I'm Jane Doe and I'm looking for my cousin Reggie Smith? How are we going to A, get them together, and B, get them so they can talk to each other without disrupting the whole group? I'm assuming that would mean a whole bunch of breakout rooms. But what are your thoughts on that?
Depends on. Sorry, somebody go ahead.
I'm asking Robert because we had this slight bit of discussion in
Oh,
another.
right. Sorry. Go
ahead. The context is pretty important here because we're actually setting up a 3-hour cafe that would be open to refugees in Poland that are coming across the border. And one of our thinking processes is to have a recurring meeting, which is not without any registration, of course. We don't have a solution to what you're talking about, because that's really, I don't want to use this word openly, but freely, but it's like a matchmaking functionality that you're talking about, and breakout rooms aren't really the best solution for that. There are other apps that are much better, but I think on our list of items that we're looking for, we're going to set up in time, of course, a breakout room for people who are looking for other people, and they can just go in there and speak to someone, and we create a list. Okay. And we're going to create a list, and then that list will be visible in this breakout room, people who are looking for other people, and they can go in, and we'll be just scrolling that as a screen share in that breakout room. That's our thinking process at the moment. We haven't come up with anything cleverer than that so far.
So obviously my example was made up just because I didn't know if your actual thing was public or not. So that's why I did the whole fire thing. But the thought might be that you've got an entire country, so you have lots and lots and lots of areas that you might have breakout rooms for a particular region, a particular state, a particular city, though that people can go into that and thereby narrow your search a little bit?
You know what, Lois, what we're doing is we're taking a more agile approach. In other words, see what people want the most in the last meeting and then build that into the next meeting. Yeah?
Wonderful.
So I don't really want to have a rigid format for this, because we know the limitations of Zoom. In terms of just sheer numbers, you can only have 50 breakout rooms and that's it, you're stuck, unless you do something very clever to build it out. But we want to keep this really simple, because we're going to have moderators who are actually from the Ukraine. We've got to train them, they've got to come in because it's going to be open format. We've got to be able to throw people out literally if they start misbehaving and all sorts of things like that.
we are, the Quakers, Friends House Moscow is doing a daily meeting for worship for an hour. It's in the morning in California. And what we found was that when we first started, we just had, we had breakout rooms, and we had people just automatically put in random breakout rooms, and so that they could talk in a smaller group, because meeting for worship is like 500 people in silence. Okay, well, when that's over, people wanted to talk. And then what we found was that some people were saying, well, I want to be with this person because we're interested in this topic. And so we ended up switching to topical rooms. So now there's, you know, a series, there's about 8 of the topics. And then after that, they're just numbered rooms. So if there's something that someone wants to talk about, they can put in the chat, because we have chat available at that time. They can put in the chat, I'm going to be talking about, you know, the peace testimony applied in the time of war in room 12 or whatever. And so then they have the ability now to choose what room they're going to. And we have found that that is very useful. So just thinking. And I didn't mean to cut everybody else off. Rupert, you were starting to talk.
I just had some initial thought. I mean, it all depends, like Robert said, on what kind of numbers you're dealing with and what your sizes are going to be. Because you know, if numbers were high and you were out, if your moderators or your co-hosts were outnumbered, you could get a bit of a pile up on your hands, I guess. But obviously, having a good attendee to, a good participant to co-host ratio is important. I mean, given the use cases that you're using as examples, if you know you're providing a place or a service, even, I mean, a place certainly for people in a potentially vulnerable situation or environment or time to go, then there's an incumbent responsibility to provide as safe a place as you can. So I think it's really important to keep on top of those moderation activities. Otherwise, you know, your risk of something going wrong is, you know, could get uncomfortable. And I think if you were going to, I think it would be a good idea for all of your co-hosts to have access to a shared Google Doc or something. So if you are going to check people in or make notes, that you're all looking at the same thing, so you don't get out of sync like that. And if your volume is quite high, let's say you've got people coming into a main room or even thing, I would suggest, I've done some ham radio stuff where you do these check-ins, you know, and there's a whole protocol around it. And I think if you were dealing with a decent flow of people, you could have like a rotating 3 or 5 minute format, you know. Hey, we're going to do a check-in now. We're going to go down the list and make sure people get assigned. And then, you know, our next go around will be at the, you know, in 5 minutes. And anybody coming in, you know, you could have just a rotating protocol and maybe have that, you know, in a slide in gallery view. So people coming in can see, you know, where you are and when their turn will be to speak, or what the next time for a fresh check-in will be.
Rupert said the key word there, Louis, and I just want to say it again, and that is logistics. When you're dealing with that number of people, anything beyond literally 100 or more, that logistics kicks in. And as someone who, I've gone to college for logistics, I've done these things to apply to the fire department as well. So when it comes to having the access points, like he mentioned as well, if you don't have moderation in every one of those breakout sessions to make sure that things don't go awry or people start having conversations you don't want to be had in that environment, then you really need that. Because you can take a perfect example of social media with places like TikTok. Just 500 viewers requires several moderators to control the type of stuff that's coming in those feeds, that people are just, some are just trolls. And when you open up environments to the public, it becomes a haven. So you just have to watch for that.
And although registration might present a bit of a hurdle, it might also be a good idea, because, I mean, just thinking through it, you know, if you think of any of these, you know, emergency management type scenarios, the first thing 911 will ask you, or the first thing a diligent call center will ask you is like, hey, what's your number? In case we get disconnected, I know how to reach you. Because you may have, you know, if people are in challenging circumstances, they may just get connected and then be working towards whatever it is and then get disconnected, and you've no idea who they were or how to get them again or what to do. So whether it's Zoom registration or maybe some other form that people could fill in somewhere, knowing something about the people who come in and join might be useful just in case something goes wrong.
So one of the things is to find out if there are already registration places that are trying to help keep track of people. And if that already exists, then getting that information, and I love Rupert's idea of a Google Doc, but getting the information someplace that each of your moderators can have a screen open and can be looking at, maybe even sharing on screen with people. And then in your documentation, as people come into the room, maybe you can enter their information. You know, who is this and what city are they from, and then what family is with them, so that then is available for the next time somebody starts looking for it. I'm not sure if a Google Doc or having a database system or something would be better, but something that the moderators know how to use and can add to on the fly.
Even a landing page with an email address and a form, a simple form, like a simple form would be something that could get a name, a phone number, an email, so that at least you're logging who needs your help is really what I'm.
That's exactly our thinking, Leland. We've got a web domain bought, and we're going to put a landing page there. And the reason we're doing that is that we need to be able to show people topics as well that will be raised at certain periods of time, so that people have access. And our challenge, and we've got a lawyer sitting there looking at us, saying, what do we need to do to avoid becoming a news service?
Right. Exactly. And if you focus on who the people are, who they're looking for, and what needs they have, without trying to discuss which is better and which is worse, and as long as it is, you can keep it on that, focused on those small bits, then you'll be, I think, better off.
I would also recommend, having a list of resources. I mean, you'll get the feel, I guess, for this as you get people coming in and what kind of needs they have and what you can help with and what you can't. But either initially or over time, build up a list of resources where you can direct people in case they need something that you can't provide. I did some voluntary work with a local food bank during lockdown, and they did other things in the community too, and they would get all kinds of calls. Some were their areas of assistance, and lots weren't, but they had a list of resources. You need to call these people, or these people could help you, or this would be a better place. We can help you with this, but not this. And so you don't just cut people off to a dead end.
And one of the things that you might consider is that those places that are offering services, actual services, might be able to have a Zoom meeting at the exact same time that yours is going on, where you could then, if someone says, I'm interested in this, you could put in the chat the link, they can go to the other place and talk to the people who can actually help them. And I don't know if that is something that would work, but if you have topical breakout rooms and the person moderating it knows what those are, that would be another place where people could feel like they got heard and they got something else, and it wasn't on them to go and find something or look something up. And I got to go do my meeting now. So it was lovely to talk to you. I'll see you some other time. And Robert, good luck.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lois. Thanks for kicking that off. And I will definitely take advantage of all of you guys and come back when I get stuck, because I'm sure we're going to get stuck with a lot of things.
And Robert, my company was the organizer. I did that since 1980. And anytime you want to call and talk and bounce anything off of my head, I am always, always available to you guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, that's what's so cool about, this whole community is a lot of different talents and skills and thoughts and so forth, and willingness to jump in. So yeah, we could easily fire up a Zoom test kitchen at any moment of any day on demand, just by sending out some messages to, people on the Facebook group and email direct and so forth, right, for a specific, needed conversation that, happens to be in the kitchen, meeting, but it has to do with this topic in particular. So, all right.
Nice tan, by the way, Jeff. I had to just throw that in.
I
there.
know, right? Can you tell? I was
tan
looking
there.
at my camera, going, gosh, what should I do to it? The fact is I just got sun in the desert, man. That's all there is to it. I can't take it away.
But, glad you managed to get over there and experience that community project.
It was
a really cool project for sure.
It was a lot of fun. And in a couple weeks, I'm gonna go hang out with Doug and Lana and see what they're doing at I think some MMA fights or something like that. So
I tried to catch
not probably a sport that I really am into, but at the same time the production side of it will be fun to be a part of. So just making the connections and just some great people. I mean, nobody was a surprise personality. That's the thing, because we've hung and been real. It wasn't you can't be. I don't think you can be a fake for 2 years. Virtually, right? And so everybody gets real eventually, and just everybody was who they were, and it was just so cool. I mean, Bill explained it pretty cool. He says it was one of the easiest environments and sets to walk into. I trusted everybody. I didn't have to worry about who's going to stab who in the back, and it was super cool. So it was a good time. Memories for a long time. I've been working on getting all my B-roll all sorted out, and I got it all up yesterday. But about 80 gig of
your camera
videos
doing?
and photos. Oh, it's fine. It a bit of a chore getting it all cleaned up, but yeah, it was ugly. That's for sure.
I saw the pictures of John.
What day was that? That was the 16th, I think. Yeah, I don't have quick. I don't know. I got all raw images that don't preview there. Oh, they preview inside here. It was classic because the whole thing was things were blowing so bad, and a chair. I thought it was a chair that took off, and so Doug went walking after it. Well, his walk wasn't nearly the pace of the wind. And so he just kept walking and walking to where he was about to disappear into the dust at a distance. No. And I'm like, I'm going to go. I'm going to jump in my car and go follow him and so we can go drive and try to find it and so forth. I put my camera down.
To recover the chair, right?
Well, it ended up being the bag for a chair. It's like, what? So,
all that work for the bag?
Yeah. So, what can
gotta run. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, I was just going to ask real quick, David, when is your, I missed him. He got out. I wanted to see when he did his Sabbath show, because I didn't catch him. I was going to bail on the Sabbath here for you guys too.
Yeah,
can't wait to see your footage, right? Man. That'll be fun. Are you going to broadcast that all on like one page with a bunch of stuff, or?
They are.
Throw it their way.
Yeah, he heard you. He's back.
There he is.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Leland. I heard you guys pressed the leave button.
I was just going to wish you Shabbat Shalom. And when do you do your broadcast for the weekend? Do you do one on Shabbat, or do you do it tonight?
I don't have a regular Shabbat thing that I do. No,
I thought you were doing that Torah teaching thing with the.
So tomorrow morning. I'm doing I've got two things tomorrow morning. I'm doing a closed Torah study tomorrow morning, and then I'm leading a service for a synagogue. I don't know where.
Oh, okay.
I have once a month I do a service that I lead that's open, but.
Okay. No, just ping me sometime. I think we're friends on Facebook, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay, just ping me sometime if you're going live. I'd love to stop by when I get a chance.
Absolutely.
I never know when everybody's show is anymore.
I know.
It's so hard to keep up with everybody. All right, thanks. I appreciate it.
See you later, guys.
See ya. Bye. Very good. So, yeah, I think Sky and probably mainly Sky under maybe Chris' guidance and so forth, or whoever the team is working on a full-on like documentary that will be the
I
the
heard
best
something
of
about
everything.
that.
There's a lot of storytelling, and I mean, try to get them all. We ran around, and I think Chris just posted it. Was the tech tour, each trailer and what it is, what it's doing, who's in it, doing what, and so forth, and just a lot of different spots like that, and the rocket build naturally, and so and I got a ton of B-roll they never even saw, especially the last like production day. They're not building packages anymore; they're using what we've built up to that point, and so there was a lot, especially like the morning when I've got like this pan right to left of the feet and the fire and some more feet, just that,
B-roll,
and it's just all B-roll, and it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, I've been watching John launch rockets but I have never been to the lake bed. He's been launching those rockets since I've known him, and beyond
years,
that, obviously, this first one went up in like '95. So for him to finally have this gathering of a community that has really, I mean, it exploded, and the production value of that was really intense, because it's a huge learning experience for everybody involved in that.
Yeah.
And it opens the door to a production that could merit a true broadcast, really, because it's, you're talking about a junior level of space that not a lot of people know about, with these larger scale rockets above the testis level, where people are out there shooting these little 12-inch rockets in the air for fun. You start talking 12-foot rockets, that's a whole nother level of professionalism. So you could have a whole channel, based on that production itself, to where that could become a successful show, literally.
The organizers of the event were, I talked to this guy's name was Pat, and he's the one who certified John, and but we were talking at the after party for a while, and he was, he said, I knew some production people were coming. I had no idea what the hell was coming. I mean, because we had just, we took up space and a lot of vehicles and a lot of, 20 plus 25 people or so, and he had no idea that's what was coming, but he was just thrilled to death, right? Because I mean, they, with no involvement of their own, are going to have a tremendous benefit as a result of, the footage and the documentary. And because, we have footage of the launch pad, we have footage of them at their launch table checking, people in and so forth. So, a lot of it's there. So it could, do a lot for their sport, if you will. And so, yeah, it'll be fun. But I also talked to Chris. I said, we had a lot of conversation after, post-event and so forth. And I said, John's saying is it's not about the rocket, it's about the community. I said, and there was a little bit of this going on, but it would be, it could be even better organized to have a skilled op, wherever that may be, a skilled operator, and an apprentice, and this skilled operator and an apprentice. And so now you have, more people there, but now it's, this community of, professionals and apprentices or students or whatever the case may be. I mean, like Roscoe, he goes, gosh, I would have loved to bring, 4 or 5 of the students up to this and just be here and have the exposure and so forth.
Yeah,
that's what he does.
What I meant by a teaching moment. It's something that not everybody gets a chance to see, even if you were to go to YouTube and say, let me see some rocketeering movies.
Ash and Eric ran those cameras. Eric ran all the handheld on production day, right? He had never done it. I don't think he'd ever done it before, and he did it just a bang up job. And Ash, I think that was his first time on the camera, so it was, I would have done it. It would have been my first time on that type of camera for sure, but I already had a roll, and so you just, that's what gets you back and coming and so forth. So it was great. It was a great time.
I'm going to bail, guys.
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap it all up.
Yeah,
Good luck,
Jeff, just
Robert.
before you finish off, Leland, I don't know if you can help me on this, but this is more of a Rupert question, I think. Last 2 weeks, we've been having issues with webinars, and we can't get 1080p out of our webinars. We got switched over to the servers in Netherlands, and then it happened after that. And I spoke to Zoom, and they physically switched us over across back to Germany, but the problem still occurs. And this is a dedicated webinar for hybrid meetings. So we only pull in individuals when we want them, and we have all full HD equipment on site.
Yeah.
And everything has been checked through by Zoom and everything. It's been escalated up to the top engineers, and no one can come up with anything.
Have you checked it at small scale? Like, have you just set up a test webinar with, one panelist and one attendee? Keep it simple, and then have you tested it at that level, or are you?
Yeah, we did the testing before the event. It was the same event, agreed. It wasn't a completely fresh event. And it was a recurring event, of course.
But was the testing with lots of people, or have you done it? Have you been able to do a test just with maybe one panelist and one attendee?
We did it 1-to-1, then we added one, because of that magic 3 number.
Right.
And nothing.
I'm gonna fire one. If you guys have time to, disconnect, end the show, and then I'll send you this invite. Let's see.
Was anybody on iPad or an iPhone, Robert?
No. When we started off, we were just using cam links with 4K cameras going into separate computers.
Right.
So,
do you have meeting licenses on that same account?
Yes.
Do meetings get 1080p?
Yes.
So it's just webinar.
Just webinar.
Is it in your webinar? Have you tested resolution panelist to panelist?
I don't know what that means.
Well, so if you have your let's say 2 panelists, if they pin each other, regardless of what the attendees or the audience is seeing, if they just pin each other, can you get 1080p between your panelists?
No.
No. Have you checked because there is a 1080p, there is a separate HD setting for webinar in the back end, but that's really to do with what your attendees see. So it shouldn't affect what.
It's only a 10dB.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
It's a 1080 account enabled, so I don't have an issue at this level, and Zoom has confirmed that.
And everybody's.
What's baffling me is that the Zoom engineers can't figure it out. So that leaves it kind of what's really going on. I mean, to me, it's almost like if they're coming in on a browser version, that could be an issue. If they're not using an updated client.
But that's why I said the same participants can effectively turn around and join a meeting, and they'll get 1080, right? Is that what you said, Robert?
Yes, in a meeting, yes.
Right.
But not in a webinar.
Not in a webinar.
Yeah, it obviously switched when you jump from one server to another in another country. So it's got to be some type of configuration settings within the Zoom infrastructure on the other servers, is what I'm guessing.
So there's a webinar ID and password and link if when we wrap this up. And this would be, my thinking on this is, let's confirm that all of our equipment on the servers in the US that I connect to, unless you've already done this, we can achieve 1080 no problem. And then Robert, then you can launch a webinar that we'll join, which will be your servers, you said, in Germany. And let's see if that makes an absolute distinct change, which sounds like it should, because we know we've got 4 people right now that have 1080 capable equipment, bandwidth, everything, right?
It says host has another meeting in progress.
Yeah. You'll have to copy and paste this to your desktop, and then once I end the meeting, then we'll meet. We'll meet in this webinar. So let me. Is that okay with you guys? As far as a little bit extra time for Robert here. Okay.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
So we'll jump to this webinar.
I'll wrap up the show here for the archives, and then we'll see you there in a moment.